A top story at this hour, Andhra Pradesh Deputy Chief Minister Pawan Kalyan conducted an inspection at the Kakinada Port to investigate illegal transportation of rice. Now, during his visit, he examined over 1,000 tons of rice sacks loaded into a barge that were allegedly intended for illegal export to West African countries. Now, State Civil Supplies Minister Nandinda Manohar provided details about the ongoing issue of illegal rice transportation from the port.
Absolutely checking anyone can come from other countries. Anything can happen. Because today it is rice. Tomorrow it can be for a national security threat. Terrorists can come, RDX can be imported, a lot of explosives can be imported. And we have a ONGC online. You know how dangerous game this is. It can unfold. Purpose of marine police is it a state marine police?
Yes.
And stating that a powerful lobby is behind the smuggling of PDS rice, now Deputy Andhra Pradesh Chief Minister shared that he has been advised against visiting Kakinada Port through messages, as the issue involves over 10,000 workers on ground. And while acknowledging the complexity of the issue, he called for ending of smuggling without affecting the livelihoods of thousands of workers at the port. Now, remember, the entire issue came to light after Kakinada collector asked ships to be intercepted. These ships were allegedly carrying rice. Ship Stella El Panama was intercepted 9 nautical miles off the coast of Kakinada Port. It was carrying 640 tons of rice. The rice was allegedly diverted from the PDS, the public distribution system. The rice was to be sold to West African countries. About 1,000 tons of rice sacks were in the port for illegal exports. And this obviously reeks of corruption within the PDS system, which is leading to illegal exports, an issue that the Andhra Pradesh government is now taking cognizance of. In fact, Deputy Chief Minister there visiting the port site and suggesting that he was told not to visit Kakinada Port as it involves over 10,000 workers. My colleague Varghese joining us with more details. Varghese, this has become more than just about PDS rice, because we've heard Deputy Chief Minister there of Andhra Pradesh saying that if a port can be illegally used to transport rice, it can also be illegally used to transport other explosive materials.
Well, this particular port inspection actually went for the rice camp, but later there are several concerns that have been raised by Pawan Kalyan, the Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh. He in fact said that he was surprised when he was asking for an inspection of the ship that is Stella El Panama, on which the suspected rice was being smuggled allegedly to West African nations. Well, he wanted to in fact check the barrages as well that were moving towards the ship, but he was denied authority by the port authorities, and this has in fact miffed him as well. So he said that the authorities who are looking after Kakinada district have to in fact go ahead and issue notice to the CEO of Kakinada Port as well to find out why there was a lot of rice that seems to be coming in from the public distribution system. So we know that the PDS rice is being diverted from the public distribution system and brought to this port. When he was at the port itself, there was around 1,040 tons of rice that was placed at the port itself. Meanwhile, 640 tons of rice was also placed inside the ship that is Stella Panama, and that was having a route map towards West African nations. So he in fact tried to read out everything, and he spoke with the authorities there. He tried to go for a sudden inspection. Of course, the authorities did not let him go and step up on the ship which he wanted to do to check. He also went on to say that he also asked them whether they can go ahead and seize the ship, and if anything happens, he will in fact take the matter with the central government. So this is the level at which he was in fact trying to understand what the issue was at Kakinada Port. He said that there has been rampant smuggling and even for rice smuggling alone. But what in fact actually concerned him more was that there was a maritime security issue to this. Now we know that Kakinada Port is actually strategically located. We have the Visakhapatnam naval base on top as well. And you have the other naval bases at the further down in the coast of Tamil Nadu as well, and some of our important naval as well as our strategic oil reserves are also located in the Kakinada area. So he was saying that there were only 16 security personnel to look into the entire port security. He said this itself shows that there is a lack of security. Then he also went on to ask as to whether it was easy for terrorists to in fact bring in RDX or in fact smuggle terrorists also into the country through this port, because there seems to be a whole lack of security. So he in fact raised this issue that it is not only about the rice scam that we are talking about. We are also talking about how from the rice scam, the investigation into the rice scam is also talking about the security of the port, which sees at least 1,000 trucks every day plying to and fro from that particular location. So this is the concern that he's in fact raised when it comes to the inspection at the port. So it looks like Kakinada Port has become what he would in fact say a much bigger concern, especially when it comes to the issue about maritime security on our eastern coast, but at the same time also at a level at which national security should be looked into. So he said that he will take up this issue with Amit Shah, the Home Minister, about the security at Kakinada Port, the kind of smuggling activities that are happening at that port as well, Shweta.
Absolutely. In fact, he's called for a comprehensive security overhaul at the port. And, he's also said, Pawan Kalyan also said that we will discuss whether to involve CBI or CID to nab the kingpins of the racket. Now, what's going on by the way of the PDS system, where the PDS rice is being exported, diverted to West African countries? Pawan Kalyan there raising, some very important questions on who's involved, why they're involved, and why is there pressure on the workers to really comply with such with such kingpins. So essentially this has become, as I mentioned, bigger than just the PDS issue. It's become about mafia being involved in, really taking on over the port and using that port as their base to supply, essential items to other countries, as well as making it, exposing it to criminals perhaps, who can also misuse that very port to supply what they want to supply. I want to come to you right now, Varghese, once again. There's been a parallel that has also been drawn between smuggling of the PDS rice and the 26/11 Mumbai attacks, none other than by Pawan Kalyan himself. And he said this is not just about illegal rice smuggling, it's about protecting countries' security.
Yes, that's the, in fact, it started off as a simple inspection with regard to diversion of the port rice. But what we are seeing is that the PDS system rice is not the only issue. It is just one of the issues that is associated with the Kakinada port. What you are seeing at that place is probably a whole lack of security when it comes to what is being exported and what is being imported, what is coming through that port into the country and what is going out of the port from that, out of the country from that port. This is what the actual concern has come up after this inspection by Pawan Kalyan, and therefore that is why he said that the maritime security of the eastern coast is something that is of concern. And of course, with strategic oil reserves also located over there, the possibility of importing of explosives through that particular route, because of just 16 security personnel being there to run this entire port, is also of massive concern. So he has in fact raised this issue on that security level as such. Meanwhile, talking about the PDS scam itself, he said there are 16 companies that are in fact associated with distribution of rice through the PDS system. But he said that there seems to be a localized mafia and a huge network that involves not only such companies but also with regard to the network of local bureaucracy, as well as those associated from outside it, with touts also involved, that this entire network is responsible for siphoning the rice out from the PDS system and ensuring that it goes for exports to these countries. So that is something that he said he would be looking at, and that is why he said he will decide whether it will be a high-level crime branch investigation that would be looking into, or investigation that would have to probably be given to a central agency. That decision will be taken later, but he is categorically said that he would would look into the local authorities over there,
Right.
how they are in fact looking into this particular matter, because they did in fact stop him from going ahead and inspecting some of the boats that were there, and that has in fact miffed him, and he said that this needs to be addressed as immediately as possible.
All right. In fact, Kakinada Civil Supplies Officer, we're given to understand, has also been replaced. Now, the Deputy Chief Minister of Andhra has accused the mafia of exploiting the port system with involvement of at least 16 firms. So there is, of course, anger with respect to obstruction of his inspection, but then he's also accusing the local mafia there of not just supplying PDS rice to larger public out there, to other countries without due diligence, but also suggesting that there is a security lapse when it comes to adequate number of people who are manning that port. Varghese, thank you very much for all those details. We, of course, are tracking all those details coming in as far as the inspection of Kakinada Port is concerned very, very closely.